Good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Wagner, and I am the founder of Innovate Connecticut, and we are doing another professional development webinar tonight. So, with these four amazing educators you see here joining me, and we put this together. I've done some professional development webinars over the past couple of years. We Innovate Connecticut. The whole mission of this organization is to share best practices and knowledge sharing from with educators with other educators. So all of you guys do such amazing work. My hope is that we can have a bunch of these four great educators share some of the stuff that they're using from a distance learning perspective with some of the educators that are going to watch tonight. So that's really what we want to do today. We've never done one like this before, where I have five of us on at once. I've only done the other webinars I've done have only been me and one other person. So we are trying this out. We're streaming live to Facebook and YouTube, and then we will release this. We'll share this on social media, on all of our social media tomorrow. The full video on YouTube if you missed it, and then we'll also release it in audio only form on my podcast as well. So we'll get it out to as many people as we possibly can. We are going to be taking questions, so if anyone wants to ask a question while we're doing this, do not hesitate to post it on either Facebook or YouTube in the comments, and I can ask it to any of these great educators. So we'll start by just a quick introduction, and then we'll kind of jump into the very relevant topic of distance learning. So I'll just start. Melissa, you're at the top of my screen. So Melissa, if you want to start, just a quick introduction, and then we'll go around the room.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Tom, and I am a librarian in West Hartford. I have been a librarian for 5 years. Before that, I was a classroom teacher for 12. I taught grades 5 and then 4, 5, and 6 in Hartford for 6 years. I am also currently the vice president of the Connecticut Association of School Librarians, and I'm really happy to be here with everybody tonight.
All right, Michaela, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Michaela Durant. I'm a technology integration specialist for Trumbull Public Schools. I have been at Madison Middle School for the past 5 years, and before that, I was a technology integration specialist at 2 of our elementary schools in Trumbull. And then prior to that, I was an elementary school teacher at an elementary school in Trumbull and an elementary school in Weston. And I'm excited to be here with everyone tonight.
Thank you. And then Jessica?
Hi, I'm Jessica Miller. I teach 5th grade in Weston. I have been in Weston my whole teaching career, where I've also taught 1st grade and 2nd grade. Specifically now in 5th, I teach math and science, and we've been at distance learning for a while now, so I'm excited to share what we've been doing with everybody.
And then lastly, Taylor.
Hi, everyone. My name is Taylor Rye. I am currently the principal at Westbrook Middle School in Westbrook, Connecticut, and then soon to be the Granby Memorial Middle School principal starting at the beginning of next year. My entire career has been at the middle school level, from being a teacher to all the way up to administration. I'm very passionate about learning technologies, and that's where I'm aiming to get my doctorate degree. And so I'm very excited to be here and share some best practices. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate all of you joining. So I always make sure I share. I am not an educator. I have an IT background. I'm currently working in HR, but I try to act as that connector to bring amazing experts like the four of you together to kind of share what you guys are doing with everyone else. So obviously we're in an unprecedented time. I don't think if anyone asked us at the beginning of this school year if you thought for most of March and almost all of April at this point we would be doing distance learning with elementary school, middle school, and high school kids, because it's a little bit different from college. College students already do some of this distance learning, by choice, right? With some of their classes being online, it's a little bit different for the K through 12. So I think the four of you have very different perspectives. Having, we have an administrator with Taylor, we have Jessica, who's you're an in-classroom teacher with 5th grade. We have Melissa as a librarian, and then Michaela as a technology integrator. I think I have that right. Hopefully I said that right. So I think we have a really good kind of spectrum of views and opinions on this topic. So Melissa, why don't we just start with you from a librarian perspective? What are some of the things that you're doing from a distance learning perspective to support your students, and what are some tips you might have for some other librarians out there?
I think that the first layer of services has really been to teachers. Since the day that we started distance learning 3 days after we were out of school in West Hartford. So we got started pretty quick after it all kind of happened. And we had a continuum of like understanding of Google Classroom, of Google Drive, of the technologies that students would need to use in order to access the distance learning classes. We are using Google Meet in our district, and teachers are holding live like meeting hours, office hours. So it's not just stuff that's posted on Google Classroom. It is asynchronous, but it is also, students are expected to be online for their period of time. We have a schedule. And I've been really just one-on-one working with teachers to the first couple of weeks, just troubleshooting. I would meet with them and teach them basics of what they needed to do. And now in the last couple of weeks, we've kind of evolved where the librarians are offering PD. And so we have Wednesdays are when we offer classes of, we've been teaching teachers how to use different tech tools to make their teaching more dynamic and engaging. And they get to kind of do just-in-time learning. So it's been a really interesting, I guess, evolution. And the comfort level has been very interesting to watch. At first, everybody was kind of in freak out mode. And now people are kind of settling in and learning what questions to ask. And then this last week, we've really kind of focused on students. And so it's been this whole like layers of, as librarians, who is our population that we are serving right now? And although it's always everybody, we've kind of done that approach where we started with teachers, now we're moving to students, and I hope we move to parents sort of in the next iteration to try to get all of our stakeholders knowing where our resources are and how parents can best help their children with what's happening, and just making learning as meaningful as possible. So that's kind of a quick overview of sort of how we've handled it in our district.
Just real quick follow-up, Melissa, and I appreciate you sharing that. So, obviously kids are used to, at least in the elementary school level, I think for most elementary schools, library is considered a special, and the kids get really excited to go to the library and then do all these fun things, right? And it could be, books, it could be reading, it could be other things you do in the library. What are you recommending for kids from a reading perspective? What, for your kids during this situation, right? Is it kind of just like, read whatever you want just for fun to kind of keep it up, or are you trying to work with the teachers like Jessica, the classroom teachers, to give suggestions on the curriculum for them?
Well, obviously it's all of the above. As a librarian, my first answer is always children should be reading for pleasure and choosing books that they want to read. That's always what I promote first. And just the access, though, has been huge. So a lot of kids don't have physical books in their houses that they haven't read yet. The libraries are closed. So where do they go? So we've been really sharing about how to access ebooks and audiobooks, both through the public libraries, through our school digital collections. A ton of educational companies have really stepped up and are offering free resources from now until the end of June because of this distance learning, emergency learning situation. But beyond that, we're hoping to work with teachers. So now that they're kind of getting in the flow of their curriculum and they're sort of making the shift from physical print and text to digital print and text, we're trying to sort of curate different resources that might be beneficial and useful that are like multi-user nonfiction books or online textbooks. And a lot of our teachers have been using a combination of those types of digital resources and open-ended OERs. So we're really trying to monopolize on all of those tools that are out there and getting them in one spot so that teachers know how to access them and students know how to access them.
No, I think that's a great idea. And maybe we can, Melissa, even share some of those resources that you mentioned with the free ebooks on social media this week to kind of, I know I've been trying to do a lot of that, and just, I think you're right. A lot of education companies have really offered a lot of things free for people, especially because there's a lot of communities that don't have the resources that some of the communities in Connecticut have, right? So I think a lot of people have been stepping up, so I appreciate that. So why don't we we'll pivot now to Michaela. So Michaela, I can't imagine how busy you've probably been as a technology resource to all of your educators right now in the school. So what is your role as like a tech expert within the school to kind of help with all this distance learning with all the educators?
So, kind of like Melissa was saying, my main role has been to pretty much just give professional development all the time to teachers, and to kind of troubleshoot problems with parents, especially when they're having trouble accessing online textbooks or they're encountering errors and with things like that, and just kind of troubleshooting things with students as well. The thing that I've kind of found to be the most successful since we've started distance learning is really using our faculty Google Classroom as a hub for our virtual PD. And so I kind of do that for a few reasons, one of which is it's nice to kind of not get as many emails through our staff distribution list because we can find everything in the Google Classroom stream. And it's really beneficial for our staff members to experience Google Classroom as a student because that's the platform that we use in grades 3 through 12 in Trumbull. And so it's really nice because I can ask a question just like a regular classroom teacher would, and I can then have them answer it, even if it's silly, like, what'd you do over the weekend? What's the best thing about not being physically in school? And then I can use that Google Classroom to take tech tip videos. And so I don't have to gray out student names or put like emojis on people's faces because it's all our staff members. So for example, at our faculty meeting, we had a Google Meet last week and we were joking about how fun it was during the NFL draft to see into people's houses. And a bunch of the teachers had said that they really wanted to learn how to use Flipgrid this week. And so before I did my Flipgrid PD today, I had posted in our Google Classroom a Flipgrid just saying, show me something cool about your house or your favorite place. And so then our faculty members posted different things. And so it's really cool because then I learned really interesting things about some of my fellow colleagues who I did not know lived in such interesting places. And then I got to use the videos and reply during my PD today. So for me, that's kind of been a huge help, is kind of having the staff experience things from a student perspective, because so many of the platforms we use, it is a different, end user experience. And so that's kind of something that I've been trying to work on through this whole distance learning phase.
Yeah, I don't think I even realized that there was a Google Classroom for the actual educators. I didn't know that. So my son is in second grade and he's using Google Classroom, but I didn't even think that there was that for the educators.
Well, there's not technically, but you can, since anyone can make a Google Classroom,
yeah, that's
you
a good
can,
idea.
just have them as the students. Yeah,
Exactly. Yep.
No, I really like that. So what, from a technology perspective, because you and I were talking before, what are some tips you might have? I know you just mentioned the educators. Any tips for parents around the technology that you have seen have maybe helped the students learn better at home, right? Because obviously this is a huge shift for kids. I mean, kids, first of all, kids don't like their parents being their teachers, right? Because they listen to all of you way better than they listen to me. And you all know that. But second, I mean, it's very different learning in the classroom versus learning at home, because home, there's a lot of distractions like the TV and your Nintendo Switch and toys and your siblings. So any tips from a technology perspective to help the parents?
I mean, I guess my biggest tip would be kind of like what you were saying. A lot of the students that I've been talking to, they say there's just so many distractions and they need kind of a new level of organization. Like even myself, when I transitioned to working from home, I kind of needed like a new game plan. And so I stress to them, find whatever way that you want to get organized and use a system. It could be a paper planner. I really stress using Google Keep because it integrates with Classroom and a lot of our students use it as an online agenda pad. But I kind of just stress find what works for them. And then if it is some type of collaborative tool, the nice thing is they can just invite their parent to like their Google Keep, or if they use Google Classroom, the parents can get the Google Classroom parent guardian summary and kind of have a way that the parents can be involved in that. But I think for a lot of the students, at least at the level that I'm at, it's hard, the organization piece. And as an adult, I mean, I'm struggling with that working from home. So I can only imagine what it's like for them.
Yes, I completely agree. Can I just interject one thing that we've been telling our kids is get into a new routine. You have to figure out what your new kind of normal is. Like set a time to get up. You have a school routine if you have a schedule. figure out where you're going to work in your house. If you have a lot of people in your house, you need to figure out where your space is going to be. That can kind of be like just your work area. And I just think those sort of regular rules for even homework, like when kids would come home and you have to have a set established routine for where and when you're going to do your homework. I think those routines can be really helpful in this new weird normal.
No, I think you bring up a great point, Melissa, because I was saying earlier, I have a second grader, a kindergartner, a preschooler, and my wife and I have kind of divided and conquered, and I've taken the second grader into my office with me. So we work in my office together, and then she's taken the girls into, the office that she's working in. So I think breaking them up helps. And I think the other thing I mentioned to Michaela was my son has, he has glasses, so he has some vision issues. And I think a lot of people don't realize even if you're given a school supplied Chromebook, you can use your Windows laptop to do Google Classroom. And I've been using our big 27-inch monitor for my son who has vision issues, and that's really helped him, because I think the biggest struggle for the elementary school kids, and Jessica, you might be able to add on to this as a fifth grade teacher. My son doesn't know how to type in second grade, right? Like he's used a keyboard and he uses the mouse, but he doesn't know how to type like we know how to type. And even just navigating Google Classroom, they used it once in a while in class, but they were still using their paper planner. They were getting handouts. They were doing a lot of writing. And now all of a sudden, everything's flipped on its head, and he's living in Google Classroom. And, I had to teach him how to cut and paste using, Control X and Control V and the keyboard shortcuts. Like, they don't know these things, right? So it's that's been a real big learning curve for him as a second grader. And I don't know, Jessica, for your fifth graders, I don't know if it's the same for your fifth graders as well, but I feel like the elementary school kids, it's really hard to kind of throw them into this digital world.
It is. And so much of this is the lack of social interactions that they crave. They just want to see their friends. And,
yes.
Weston was really great about in the beginning. They said, when we meet with our kids, it doesn't have to be academics right away or all the time. Like we've done scavenger hunts or would you rather, or, played hangman, just to keep that connection going for the kids. Because if you can still have that with them, you're probably going to get a little more bang for your buck, and they're going to want to try a little bit harder to try and figure something out that might be hard if they know that you're still there for them and their friends are still there. And, just balancing that is hard. But luckily in fifth grade, most of our students are pretty proficient with Google Classroom. I've been using it all year, so that transition was pretty seamless. But what's been new has been a lot of the tools that I have, as a teacher, have used for my instruction. So it started out just trying anything and failing a lot. And if I had to give a tip to other teachers, it's just fail in front of your kids. It's okay. In fact, they love it. They love to see me mess up. Like, here, guys, I'm going to share something with you. Can you see it? No. Okay, I'm going to try again. Hold on. It just, if they know that we think it's hard, it gives them permission to think it's hard. And then everybody's just sort of getting through it together. Slowly, we've gotten to a point where I think everybody's feeling a lot more comfortable with the different methods, and I'm more comfortable using things, and we've settled into it. But we all have to give ourselves some grace and just know this has been an overnight change. Real distance learning doesn't happen like this. Usually you've got a plan and you can roll it out, and that's not what we have. So, and with that, to the parents, it's okay for your kids to see that you don't know what to do either, because we're all in the same boat. Yes. So I would say just taking a breath and taking a step back and then regrouping is really important. I've had kids reach out and say, Mrs. Miller, I cannot get this to you by 3:30. I was like, fine, go outside, play, do whatever you have to do. The work will be there. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about you. You're my student. You're the one that I wish I could see every day. So just being able to balance that has been really important these last, 5 weeks, 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Jessica, so it's interesting. You mentioned it sounds like you're doing Google Meets with like your whole class for everyone to kind of play a game or whatever. And my second grader, I would say they've been doing those as well with the whole class. And they might not necessarily know how to they don't know proper etiquette when it comes to having a virtual meeting, right? But it's amazing how excited they get to see each other on video and just talk to each other, because you're 100% right. They just miss each other immensely. And it's funny because, before all this, kids would complain, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to school. And now all of them want to go to school. It's like they all want to leave the house and go back to school. So it's interesting how this entire thing has kind of shifted the mindset of a lot of these kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, so Taylor, so I think you have a different view of this because you're an administrator. So you're
Yes.
currently a principal. So
Yes.
what has that been like as a principal? Because obviously you're probably hearing a lot of you're probably getting a lot of phone calls from parents and emails, and you're in one of those like no-win situations where it's like no matter what you do, you're probably going to get flack from someone. But how have you been dealing with this as an administrator, and how are you supporting your educators? Because I feel like that's that's your role as the administrator to do that.
That's a great question. Really, the most important thing, and I was talking about this with my staff the other day, is we're 3/4 through the year, so we have these relationships built. We know who the kids are. We know who needs a little extra, or who is a high flyer and can do very well. So we're very fortunate in that regard. But we, as Jessica said, in my school, we were very familiar with the Google Classroom platform. So we didn't have that automatic change. Everything that we're using in Westbrook right now are tools that they've always used. So the familiarity is already there. But from the selfish perspective, I mean, I stand outside every day greeting the students as they come in, and I don't get to do that anymore. So really, the big thing for me is really just relationships come first and foremost. And I think all of us have said that in one way or another, is that make sure the kids know you're there for them. Make sure that we're in this together. We literally went 1 week we were in school, the next week we were seeing each other virtually. One of the things that we did in Westbrook that I really am very actually proud that we are doing this is we actually have a structured time from 9 to 12 every day where kids attend periods. We do synchronous learning, whether it's 15 minutes with the teacher, or some teachers just keep it open, give a class assignment, but yet they can all see each other. It's just that connection of being, okay, like, hey, maybe I should ask this question, or just looking up and seeing that somebody's there. So really it's the relationship piece that's really important for the kids, but also for the staff as well. We really, making them excited with staff meetings, doing virtual scavenger hunts, doing virtual spirit weeks, and as I think Michaela said earlier, tell us something that's like about your house or something unique. Let's really learn about you. And so really taking that relationship piece, not just you can't go down the hallway and talk to that person. We're not talking to them in the photocopy room anymore, but really we have to make that extra effort to really go and talk to them. So we need to find those opportunities. As an administrator, I feel like that is my job, is to really foster those opportunities for the staff members, and especially for the kids. And I try to send out a virtual message once a week. Just, I'm still here, and just letting them know what I'm doing. These are maybe this is a new hobby that I picked up. My son taught me how to do a new trick, but to show them like to really engage them in that personal aspect. So for the administrator standpoint, not just the designing and making sure everybody has what they need, but to really keep that morale piece too, because this is hard. You're stuck in one spot. You can't see your friends. You can't see your colleagues. And to be able to, for teachers to bring it every single day, that's hard to begin with as in the classroom, but now to do it with all the distractions, it's just that much harder. So in short, it's a lot, but it's definitely worth it. And I think that as each week goes on, we get a little bit better at it.
I think you bring up a couple good points, Taylor, especially, and I think this goes for all the educators listening. Taking care of yourselves is probably more important now than ever before.
Absolutely.
And to your point, Taylor, I mean, you all have exhausting jobs. I don't know how you guys do it every single day. Like, honestly, I don't, but because it is difficult, and you are, to your point, you are on every day, right? And your kids expect a lot out of you, but I know how hard, I know how even probably more educators are working now from an hours perspective than before, simply because they're trying to balance their families at the same time trying to teach my kids, right, and everyone else's kids. So, I think for all the administrators, it's like, I love the idea of checking in with your employees, your educators, Taylor, and asking them like, hey, what do you need? How can I help? How can I support you? And are you okay? Right.
Yeah.
So are you, are you taking time for yourself? Which, I can tell you just from personal experience, my wife is, like I said, she's an SLP. It's by the end of the day, I got to see how I can try to support her so she can, have some alone time, right? Or just unwind a little bit, and just maybe not talk to anyone, or just read a book and have some time to herself. Because when you guys are working with the kids, there's such demands on you because they need your help with everything that takes a lot out of someone. So finding time for yourselves, I think, is just so important right now. I can't stress that enough.
And one thing I'd just like to add is it's so much harder because you're sitting in your home, you have your laptop, you have your emails. I mean, before we had that car ride, whether it was 5 minutes or 35 minutes to really decompress and really think about to reflect on your day. But now it's really important for all educators, administrators, even students to be able to just step away. And I think Jessica said, go outside and play. Like just take those 10, 20 minutes, just move away from everything because it's good for your own sanity. To be
Yeah,
able
you have
take
to
that
set
break.
boundaries. You have to, because we can't be available 24/7. And in the beginning, that's what I really felt. I had to get everybody where they needed to be and comfortable. And you just have to really set your own boundaries and encourage the teachers and the students to do the same thing, I think.
Well, that's something that, and I've told you guys, I work in HR for my full-time day job. And we talk about that with our work at home population, because we have a lot of people in my company that work at home full time. And a lot of them will use techniques where they will shut the door to the office where they work during the day to kind of close that like part of their life for the rest of the evening, right? Or the night. Because to your point, Melissa, when you're home and we have, the constant connectivity, it's a blessing and it's a curse at the same time. We can be connected at any point, right? So, maybe it means shutting the door to your office. Maybe it means not putting your work email, your educator email on your personal phones.
That's
And
it.
maybe, right? And maybe
That's it.
leaving it on your school laptop that they gave you. Because again, if you have it on your personal phone and you're always checking your phone, you might be on Instagram for fun and then be like, well, I might as well check work email.
Yep. Yep, it happens.
So I mean, so I have any of you guys any tips from any of you on how to set boundaries, right? Because I think that's a challenge for everyone right now. Do any of you have anything that you can share on how you've set boundaries? Because I think I know a few of you have children as well, so I think it's even more important for those of us that have families, because the kids want to see their parents.
I can speak from my, just being an administrator. I mean, it's already a hard job to begin with because you're getting phone calls well into the evening for various things. But it's important to have that work-life balance. And 5 o'clock hits, okay, I'm not checking that email. That email will be there in the morning. And to stick to it. And I think you nailed it on the head to remove the email app from your phone. And yeah, if it's an educational emergency, they will call. But yeah, really to really adhere to those boundaries. And when you log off for the day, be done. So that's definitely something that I've learned in my administrative career.
I think learning to prioritize is really important too, because just like Melissa was saying in the beginning, I wanted to fix everybody's problem right away, within 10 minutes if possible. And then after the first week went by, I had to send an email to all my students and their parents and said, I can't do it. I tried. I need an hour. I need an hour to get back to you. And for me, giving myself permission to have an hour was huge. And even now, like if I get an email that comes in and I see that it's just, it's a small thing and it doesn't need to be solved right away. Giving myself the permission to not answer it right away has been huge. But then on the flip side, just last Friday at like 4:15, I had a student email me and they were really upset about this project, this end of unit project that they were doing. And I decided that warranted an immediate response. So at 4:15 on a Friday, I hopped on a meet and for 45 minutes, I sat with this student and I calmed them down and we joked and we talked and it's about knowing when to make those decisions and when to make a decision more for you as a person and striking that balance takes practice.
So I want to just throw this out to anyone that's listening, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube. If you have any questions for our great panel, feel free to just put it in the comments, and we can definitely see if they can help answer those. And while we're waiting to see if there's any questions, I think one thing I wanted to ask all four of you is how do we deal with setting expectations for yourselves as educators, for the parents, and for the students, right? Because I feel that these are obviously unprecedented times, and I feel if we have unrealistic expectations for all three groups, right, the educators, the parents, and the students, this may be even more challenging than it needs to be. So any advice on setting expectations for any of those groups and how to do that?
Well, if I just have to say, the UPS guy just came to my door and I just got a book order and I'm so excited. But for the expectation part, like one of the things that I just want to say, and I want every group that's listening to really think about is like, this is an opportunity for us in education to shift a little bit. I really think that we can focus on interest-based education and individualizing and what are you wanting to learn and what is the way you want to learn, and just being more flexible in how we're delivering these learning opportunities to students. Because I think that's the key to joyful education. And Nick, that's kind of like my tagline. Like, I really think learning and school should be joyful.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean it's easy, but it should be fulfilling. And it should be something that we're wanting to do in most situations and motivated. And I just think that there's so many opportunities for what we call kind of enrichment. And when we're in regular school, it's extra, but it just should be. It should just be what we're doing. And if you want to go on a virtual field trip, then do that. If you want to create a newscast, do that. If you want to create a documentary, do that. And we can use the standards and we can use the guidelines of what we think each kid should learn in each grade level and what they should come out knowing how to do. But we can make it a little bit more enjoyable, I think. So expectations from me as a librarian might be a little bit different from an administrator, might be a little different from a classroom teacher or a tech integrationist, but I think we can all work together to come to kind of like a common idea and work together and interdisciplinary type of approach to really kind of bring education back to where I think it could be.
And just to piggyback on this, I've seen such amazing growth by teachers who have gone outside of their comfort zone. I'm fortunate enough where I get to pop into classrooms every day, Google Classrooms. But the way that teachers are stepping up to the plate, going outside of their comfort zone, and just trying one of those little tricks it's amazing. And I'm starting to see that shift bit by bit. And then also just to piggyback on is really, mental health is really an important thing for these kids. We can play catch up in the future. That's our job. We're professionals. We can bring them to where they need to be. But right now, making sure that they're safe, they have the essentials, that they are okay is really the most important. And once we get there, we can do anything with the tools. But that's definitely one thing I wanted to add is really, if they're not in an okay place, let's get them there before we start really doing anything else.
And to add on, like, it's not just ticking the boxes on the Common Core state standards. It's not just, did they learn this? Did they complete that? The amount of skills real life skills that they're going to have coming out of this are, right. I mean, yes, the situation is not great and it's stressful, but if we try and frame our perspective, they're going to learn to be problem solvers. They're going to learn how to ask questions. They're going to learn. There's so many other things that they're learning here that if as parents, we can, remind them, okay, so this is hard. Yes. But look what you know how to do now. Look at these other things you've learned how to do. Like my fifth graders are starting middle school next year. They're already going to know, the importance of checking their email and how to do that and how to respond appropriately. And they've already had all these lessons just organically built in because of where we are. So yes, it's hard, but there's always a silver lining if we look for it. And I think if we remind our kids, listen, you've done all these great things, it can help them to feel like, okay, all right, I'll be okay.
Yes.
So we don't have any questions, but we do have some people that are just thanking all of you for being on the panel, saying how much they appreciate their educators. One listener said that playing games with the whole class during Google Meet is something the kids have been loving. So I want to close with this. What is your, and we'll start with Michaela, what is your, like maybe something like your favorite, maybe website or app or something that maybe an educator might not know about? You mentioned Flipgrid before. I don't know if that's what you're going to say, but what's something that a piece of technology that you could share with an educator that might make their lives easier or more fun or more enriching for the students?
I guess I'm going to go with a book, an actual book.
Melissa's excited.
Yes.
I mean, there's so many tools out there. I mean, as a tech person, I just feel like we're inundated with all the free tools. But I always like to think about, is this the right use of technology? Like, do you really need technology to get to this learning outcome? I know, we have to use technology as the means to deliver our instruction right now, but there's so many ways kind of in project-based learning and other ways that we can kind of have students learn. And so I love the book, The Innovator's Mindset. And I think like that to me is like my mantra. And I know, I'm just finishing reading the second one, but I've been kind of going back to that book because the other day I knew it had something about reflection, because I was really trying to, I mean, if there's ever a time to encourage students to reflect, and even me, like, I feel like everything's moving so fast in some ways. And so I would suggest, if you haven't read The Innovator's Mindset, I think it would kind of give you some really great ideas and frame your thinking, from multiple angles as a parent and as an educator as well.
You really threw me for a loop there as the tech person to recommend a book. That was interesting. Okay, cool. We'll go to Jessica next. Jessica, what would be your website or app you'd recommend?
I guess the one that I've gotten the most bang for my buck on is Screencastify.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what I was just
Oh, good. And I'm glad I went first. Especially because they're offering a free upgrade so that you can record for more than 5 minutes, which is necessary with teaching. But the way that I've used it is, so I mentioned to you guys privately before that when I'm trying all these new things, or I want the kids to know how to do something, Screencastify allows me to capture my screen, but also can put my picture in the corner so I can be talking to them and manipulating my screen to show, hey guys, this is where you need to go to find your new math assignment. This is where you need to click to open this. This is how you do a Flipgrid. And they can hear me. And the other thing I can do if I want to make something asynchronous is if I use Jamboard, which is like an interactive whiteboard for Google, I can, be doing a math problem, but be recording it with Screencastify and then share it with them later. I went through a whole bunch of other, I actually was using soup cans and my phone
as your document camera.
As my document camera before I figured out, what ultimately worked a lot better, but it's about, like I said before, just trying until you find what works. And Screencastify for me has been overall the most helpful because I can use it to roll out all the new things that I want to try with the kids.
Well, hopefully some other educator now can give up the soup cans and use Screencastify. So that's cool. All right, Taylor, what's your pick?
I actually have to say Twitter. And that's
interesting.
And I think we all are on it. And really, the most important thing I get out of Twitter is the connectedness with other people that are either in your same grade level or areas of interest, and to share ideas and to collaborate. Just the whole CAN example that you shared. That's something that is innovative. It's neat, and it could benefit somebody in Nebraska or Connecticut or wherever. But it's really important to be able to connect and to share ideas and to really take what works, what doesn't work. And there's just so many great things out there. And actually, Michaela, to add on to using Twitter, I actually had George Couros come speak to my staff because we read Innovator's Mindset.
I'm so jealous.
So yeah, and it literally was like, hey, George, I'm having my staff read this book this summer. Want to come talk? Sure.
If he comes again, you better invite me.
Oh, you already did. This was last year.
No, I know. If you have him come again, you better invite me.
I will. It was over like a Google Meet, but it was awesome. He took questions, and it was probably one of the most engaging things I've ever. But just because of Twitter, and it really takes down those barriers. And so that's why I really encourage, if you're not on it as a teacher, get on there, just look and see, because there's so much great information.
Yeah, well said. And then Melissa, we'll close with you.
All right, so I'm going to do a little connecting because that's what librarians do. So
Okay.
It's going to be about books and it's going to be about Twitter. And one of the things that I think that people don't really realize is authors are very excited to talk to people, like all types of authors. And one of the things that I've tried to do, I have 3 virtual author events scheduled for the next 6 weeks. So I have one tomorrow, I have one next Wednesday, and I have one 2 weeks from next Wednesday. And it's 2 of those, actually, all 3 of those are because of Twitter. So when you're on Twitter, you can connect with authors and publishers, and I'm always tweeting about what I'm reading and following different people. And these 2 authors who are pretty big authors, Natalie Lloyd, who is the author of A Snicker of Magic, which is one of my favorite books of all time, and Dusty Bowling, who wrote Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus, which you absolutely have to read. It's about a girl who was born without arms and kind of how she experiences middle school and new school. And so both of those authors are going to be meeting with virtual book clubs, because that was one of the things that I wanted to try to continue, is just that reading culture. That's something that I really do a lot of work with in my school and community, and just getting kids to talk about what they're reading in books. And, kids who don't normally consider themselves readers, they join my book club because it's a social thing. And it's, we do what readers do. We talk about it. So using that tool of Twitter, which is such a powerful tool. I can't agree with you more, Taylor. I mean, Twitter is like my bread and butter in my professional world. You don't have to be part of the negative side of it. There is a lot of negativity on Twitter if you're following the wrong people, and you know who I am talking about. But if you just follow professionals and authors and publishers and other teachers and librarians, I get so much out of it every day. So I think kind of like that app smash type of idea, just taking these different tools and using them. And then I also use Screencastify, where I will record a visit if I have permission from the author or a guest speaker. And then I will have it so that kids who weren't able to be there live, it's just in time learning. And it can be on my website or on my Google Classroom, and kids can watch it whenever they want. So kind of a combination of all those things.
Yeah, so I want to thank all 4 of you again for making time. As I said, we will make sure we get this recording out on YouTube tomorrow so we can share this with anyone who couldn't join. I thank you for everyone that joined, that watched tonight. I think we definitely learned a lot of great things from the 4 of you. And again, I'm Nick Wagner. InnovateCT.org is my website. And the whole idea here is to help educators, right? That is why I do what I do. My wife, mentioned, is an educator. I want to help her. I want to help my kids have great schools in Connecticut. So the whole idea here is to let people like Melissa and Michaela and Jessica and Taylor share best practices with other educators to hopefully make your lives easier, right? So if we can share all this great knowledge that you all have, you won't have to recreate the wheel. You won't have to redo something someone else has done. You don't have to go out and buy something on Teachers Pay Teachers, or spend time, when you should be hanging out with your families or your friends, creating curriculum. So the whole idea is about knowledge and best practice sharing across the great educators of the state. So check out InnovateCT.org. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, you name it, we're there. So thank you so much to all 4 of you. I think you gave some great perspective tonight, some great ideas, and we'll make sure we share the video on social media tomorrow.
Thank you very
so
much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.